With the colder months starting to subside here in the good old US of A, all the fun memories from past summers have been coming back to me. The smell of all the barbecues in the backyards, the warm rays of the bright sun, the pools that help you cool off on a hot day, and of course, the feeling of having the blazing hot concrete burning your poor bare feet. Ah yes, the joys of summer. Hello everyone, welcome to the Science Behind, where we answer the wildest questions you've never asked. Today's question was inspired by a saying you've probably heard at least once before when it was hot out. That saying being, "It's so hot you can cook an egg on the sidewalk." This statement has always intrigued me, and I've always wanted to figure out what the legitimacy of it is. Since I love all things science and making things more complicated than they should be, today I wanted to find out the answer. Can you really cook an egg on your sidewalk? Both my mind and my stomach crave for the answer. To discover if the sidewalk could cook an egg, we have to figure out three main things. What actually makes food cook in the first place, what temperature an egg needs to be cooked at to be edible, and if the sidewalk can meet that standard. So let's put on our chef hats and get cracking on the answer. Running into our first question, what actually makes food cook? Well, food is cooked using chemistry, and there are three ways to cook it: convection, radiation, and conduction. Convection is when motion in a gas or liquid is caused by temperature differences, and that motion thus gives heat energy to the molecules, which is then transferred into the gas or liquid. The hotter molecules rise up and replace the colder molecules, and the colder molecules go down and replace the hotter molecules, and the cycle keeps on repeating. An example of conduction is a boiling pot of water that you would boil stuff in. And although eggs can be boiled, that isn't the method we want to use. We want to cook the egg on the physical sidewalk. Obviously, this method is going to be ineffective, so let's move on. Radiation is electromagnetic waves that carry energy. The energy in the radiation excites the molecules in your food, and thus makes it heat up. This is how a microwave works. It produces a type of electromagnetic wave that literally is called a microwave, that gives energy to the molecules in your food and heats it up. This is actually relevant with today's question, as the sun produces radiation, and is what will heat up the sidewalk in the first place. Now, let's talk about conduction. Conduction happens when objects are in contact with one another. Molecules in the warmer object move faster than the molecules in the cooler one. The faster molecules collide with the slower molecules, which makes the cooler molecules move more quickly, which in turn makes the object heat up. This is actually exemplified in more instances than just cooking. Conduction is also the reason seat warmers in cars make you warmer. The warmth from the seat transfers to your body, which in turn makes your body warmer. This will be the most effective method with our sidewalk, because the sidewalk will transfer heat to the egg to cook it. So now that we've cracked the case on how our eggs will be cooked, we need to figure out how hot an egg needs to be considered cooked or edible. If you're anything like me, you might be asking yourself why the egg needs to be a certain temperature in the first place to be considered edible. Well, first off, the basic need for cooking any food is that it kills any harmful bacteria or infections that may be in the food to begin with, so that you don't get sick. A reason why we cook eggs specifically is because it needs to get to a certain temperature for the proteins to coagulate, which means that they become more solid than liquid. Now, this isn't to say that raw eggs are dangerous to eat. In fact, the FDA actually states that eggs are for the most part safe to eat raw. However, there is a small chance they will contain salmonella, a harmful bacteria, so they recommend that you cook your eggs before you eat them. Anyways, the Library of Congress, who funnily enough did an article on the same exact question I'm trying to answer today, stated that the proper cooking temperature for eggs is 158 degrees Fahrenheit. So now the question is, can the sidewalk meet the requirements needed? Can we actually cook an egg on our sidewalk? The answer is surprisingly yes. At least sometimes. You see, according to a study done on temperatures of various types of pavement during the summertime, which, by the way, had over 75,000 different recordings of temperature, said that asphalt could get to 170 degrees and concrete could get to 166 degrees and 120 degree weather. That means that you could cook an egg on the sidewalk in 120 degree weather, and it could be assumed that it could also be cooked around 110 degrees. Although, at 110, I would think you could only cook on asphalt. Although the concept of cooking an egg on the sidewalk is really fun to imagine, there's something to be said about the sanitary value of this. As fun as the thought is, the practicality of cooking an egg on the raw sidewalk is not a good idea. For one thing, People have definitely walked there at least once, and I don't know about you, but I don't want what other people have on their feet in my egg. That isn't even to mention how many dumps an animal might have taken there in the past. There is, however, another way to cook an egg on your sidewalk without sacrificing the sanitary value of your food. You could just cook it on a sheet of aluminum foil just fine. Although you would have to wait a couple of hours for the foil to get hot, it would theoretically work. So now you know that whenever you get hungry for an egg in the summer, you can grab your aluminum foil and pray for 120-degree weather and grill that egg on your asphalt. Just a warning, however, do this at your own risk and don't eat raw egg. After all, I'm just a teenager using Google trying to come up with answers for a silly hypothetical question. I hold no authority whatsoever. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you all next episode.